Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to HendosHotTopics. Hope your week's going well. How are you doing? For today's guest, we have James Marshall. Thank you for joining the podcast, brother. How are you going?
Hey, good mate. Hey, thanks for inviting me on. Love seeing what you're doing here, and really impressed by your neon in the background, mate. Love it.
Thanks, brother. Thanks, brother. Now, no one will really know this apart from myself, but before I contacted you, I was a bit hesitant. I was kind of waiting for the right moment, but I thought, nah, stuff it. I'll just shoot my shot, and if you don't take the risk, you might lose a chance. So I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Nah, mate, I'll never say no to a fellow podcaster, especially someone who's trying to start off in the game. And I know that feeling that you felt when you got that message to send and not sure when the right time to send it. I'm doing
Yeah,
it
mate.
to guys I don't know all the time who I'm just like, man, should I have a go at this, or what's he gonna think? He won't know who the hell I am. So I know exactly what you're feeling.
Yeah, bro. So I explained it to you a bit before here is, what I want to touch base on is just around some obstacles you've overcome. You share your story about, and for those, for you watching and tuning in wherever you are, I really want this opportunity for my conversation with James is to take something away from it. You may be in a little standpoint, whatever you are. If you're an athlete, if you're an artist, if you're a musician, whatever it may be, you may be trying to overcome a challenge, or you have a challenge that's been weighing you down from your past and you don't know how to overcome it. So something that James says, or myself, I really hope that you can take something away from this. So we'll get started, man. Pretty early on, you're 20 years old. If I'm right, and you moved to Italy, like that's a pretty big leap in life from a pretty early stage. So if you can turn the clock back a bit, what was something that kind of helped you with that mental transition? Because that must have been quite a challenge.
To get over to Italy, to be honest, I was just so excited to have a rugby contract over there.
Yeah.
The opportunity. I always wanted to be a professional rugby player. Wasn't sure if it was ever going to eventuate, especially as I wasn't that good coming through the age grades. I was never making the rep teams, that sort of things. But it was always a real dream of mine to make a career out of footy. But so when the opportunity came to first play for Tasman, and then in the off season go over to Italy to be paid to play rugby, man, it was a real easy decision for me. At the time, I just met my now wife, but she
Yep.
was we were only been together for sort of a month or two, and she came with me, and it was that was a pretty big decision for us both to both go over there and start a life in Italy. We was only 6 months in the end, but man,
Yep.
it was such a cool experience.
Yeah. What was something that stood out for you over there compared to the culture, the diversity, the kind of lifestyle? What was it that stood out for you over there?
Well, the hardest thing to adapt to was obviously the language,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
as a rugby player, or trying to be at first five, trying to call the shots without being able to speak the language. And it was quite a high competition, to be fair. I didn't know
yeah,
too much about it. I was sort of in the New Zealand bubble. But once I got over there, I had a whole new appreciation to not only the lifestyle and the culture, but the rugby on that side of the world as well. It was a real eye opener for me. I didn't even know they drove on the other side of the road. I couldn't drive a manual. And the club when I got there, they gave me a car which was a manual, and I had to try and drive to my hotel or to my apartment. But I obviously couldn't drive, so I was like, I just told them that I was tired, and I said, "Oh, I'm pretty jet lagged. Would you be able to drive my car until you give me a few weeks to work out how to drive this thing?"
So did you ever bloody learn how to drive manual in the end?
Yeah, my missus took me to the car park like the next few weeks, and I was getting lessons in the car park trying to learn how to drive a manual on the other side of the road. But mate, there's a few hairy moments there because they're pretty mad drivers over there too.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
everyone's on the horn and everyone's speeding. So it was pretty intense.
Yeah. So if I'm correct, you went over there 2016, 2018 season, and we'll go back a little bit before that. You're playing for Tasman, and like you said, you never really made the rep teams. So my thought in your mind is getting that call up. You were in the number 10 shirt for Tasman. You got that call up to Hurricanes. Was that a bit of an eye opener of the just potential that you did have?
Yeah. So once I did make Tasman, I started to really believe in myself, and I knew that I was playing against some of the best players in New Zealand, and that gave
Yeah.
me a lot of confidence. And I'd felt like I'd come a long way. I'd really changed my mindset. I was training really hard, and I'd put in some really big shifts through some off seasons and stuff by myself. And I was really committed to the cause. And once I sort of started gaining momentum from all that training, and things started happening for me. And once I made Tasman, I was in there for 4 years before I got a Super Rugby gig. And
Yeah.
I felt like once I'd finally got that crack with the Hurricanes, I felt like I was ready, and I deserved the shot. So I was pretty confident going into that environment, and I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it was always a dream. I loved the Hurricanes when I was growing up. So the thought of me playing for this side was mind blowing.
I guess it was one of those moments where, you know, you kind of step back into your shoes when you're younger, and you dreamed of it happening, but you never bloody thought it would happen, eh?
100%, mate. I was obsessed with Christian Cullen. Like, he was like my favorite player of all time. I used to get emotional, like if he had a bad game or if he played a good game. I was like, really rode his performances like they were my own. And it's such a weird feeling, seeing how I felt back then, and then being one of those players that maybe some kids riding my journey like I was Christian Cullen's. Like, it's such a weird thing how young kids get an obsession with a player who they don't know. They just enjoy watching for their team, and it can really, like, it's such an interesting space.
Especially when you're one of the lucky ones that actually get to step foot in one of your childhood idols, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I ended up playing a fair bit at fullback for the Hurricanes as well.
Yep.
So to put on the same jersey that he did, it was pretty special.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a handful of times. You know, once we've had a little conversation about the next few sections, is how you dealt with it. I just want to ask back on what you said is, you know, your excitement. You know, being called up to the Hurricanes, the excitement of it. Were there ever any moments when you were first called up to them where the excitement almost turned into self-criticism? You know, you were so excited that you didn't want to stuff up for yourself. So, like, how did you overcome those nerve-wracking moments of, you know, this is my chance, you know, let's perform and impress?
Yeah, it's a good question, because it's always something that I felt like I had leading up to games or things like that. I used to be quite anxious about it.
Yeah.
But once I got out on the field, I always found that I was really comfortable, and
Yeah.
I never felt the nerves once I was out on the field, but it was always the build up to it. I'm not sure why that is, but I always just felt like once I was around the guys, I was confident in myself and my ability to be able to perform. Obviously, there was some times when, like, you know, where you've made a mistake,
Yeah.
and you start second guessing whether you want to be in that same situation again. I know some guys are really good at it, but something that I definitely struggled with earlier on. So I missed a kick. I probably wouldn't want another kick from that same position, just because I didn't have that same confidence that I should have. Wasn't one of those players who was like, oh, give me another crack at that. I felt like I really had to work on that. And my initial reaction was okay, I'm pretty much done here. I don't really want to kick. Would anyone else like to be the kicker now? That's sort of something that I felt affected my game for a while, and something I definitely had to overcome.
And it's interesting you said that, because I can actually kind of relate to. I'm more of a soccer boy, and I haven't played for the past couple of years because of the situation of COVID and all that. But for the last season I did play, I just came back from, you know, playing for my dream club up in here in Auckland, and it wasn't really the environment at the end of the season. And with injury to my ankle, I went back to my old club, and going back to the old club after a season, I didn't really gel into the team well enough again, because it was under a brand new name, under new management. It was just a whole new team, so I didn't really gel into it again, didn't get the opportunity. And then I got called up for one game, and the night before which is why I've stopped drinking alcohol now, I was on the piss with the boys till early in the morning, just sold my car, was in West Auckland away from my club, and I got the call up from the coach saying, you know, can you be here in 30 minutes? You know, our defender's calling sick. So I was like, hungover as a dog, yeah, sure, I'll go over there. And the same thing, I missed it. I went to go clear the ball, and I absolutely just missed the ball, went straight under my foot, and they scored. And one of those moments, which is why I want to relate to that, is even now, it's been probably a year still, and I still really want to get back into it. But it's that one moment, as you can it's almost like you're back in that moment again. You think about it, and for me, you may deal with it differently, but for me, that's almost what's holding me back from getting back into it now. Now it's that one moment, feeling everyone watching. You know, you use an excuse of, oh, sorry, coach, I was hungover, which is just a stupid excuse, even though they could see I was down as a dog. But just missing it and them scoring. And funnily enough, it was against the club that I just moved back from. So all the coaches I was trying to prove wrong, they saw it. And it's just that kind of that self-criticism you have to try overcome. You have to, you have to get back into that mindset as, am I training to train? Am I training to dominate, or am I training to win? It's finding that level again, finding that self-respect you have for yourself again, being like, okay, yeah, I stuffed up. Okay, I've done this. Let's work on it. Let's find the gap in our performance again, so we don't reach it back again. And I just wanted to touch on that because I've never shared that before, but finally speaking to someone where you just shared that, it was like, even for myself, someone like yourself is in the same footsteps every now and again.
Yeah, mate, 100%. And talking to the guys, you know why the best players are the best players, because they're so good at dealing with these sort of situations. I remember talking to Geordie Barrett not that long ago, and just his mindset around once he makes a mistake, it's just like he's got an ability to completely wipe that, no matter how bad that mistake is, and just continue to back himself, which is such an underrated skill. Like, it sounds easy, but like you say in your story, like when you're in that moment, it's actually a really hard thing to do, is to park that mistake that you've just made and just to carry on like nothing's happened. And at the end of the game, you can always review the game, but to not be able to not think about that moment in it is
for sure.
Really, really hard skill.
Yeah, and I want to relate it to you who's listening to this, is if you've had a moment like that, and James can probably agree as well, is the first thing you've probably thought about is, what have others thought about me? I know that's what I thought about, is making that mistake. Oh, what's the coach thinking about me? I'm probably not going to get another chance again. All my players I played with for the previous season are all now laughing at me. What a joker kind of thing. And it's one of those things you have to overcome. I'm going to say it again, is you have to overcome your self-criticism, and it's not an easy skill to have. And you see so many professionals doing it, and it all comes with experience, I believe. Is if you make a couple of mistakes, different mistakes every now and again, it comes with experience of overcoming it, accepting it, and moving on. So if you've gone through a hurdle right now, or you're facing an obstacle and you're struggling with actually getting over the fear of it, I want to say right now, from thinking about it for over a year, is accept it. You think all these people are focusing on you because you made that mistake, but I'll trust you. Well, trust me, they're thinking more about what they're going to have for dinner tomorrow night than the mistake you made. So don't stress on it too much, and just go out there and perform harder next time, and prove yourself wrong so you don't make the same mistake, is all I have to say to you listening. Now, for the next question, James, I want to ask, bro, is we talked about how moving around affected you mentally. What was it like coming back home from being overseas, and that different culture scene, and learning to drive manual must have been a new life achievement coming over here, bro. But how did it feel coming back over here, from a mental standpoint?
Oh, mate, I think it just gives you a whole new perspective of the things that you're grateful for, I guess.
Yeah, bro.
The things you don't really notice. The awesome things about New Zealand, getting to live in New Zealand, you don't really appreciate them until you head overseas, and you're in a whole different culture. But something I had to do in my whole career, for pretty much every 6 months I was moving, whether it was from Nelson to Wellington, Taranaki to Wellington, London, Japan, Italy. We moved around so much, so it was constant life on the move for us, and that was just part of the gig. But it definitely, every move just opened my eyes to what I'm really grateful for about my previous place, or where I'm going. Try to look at all the positive things about the situation that I was in. And I feel like that really helps. I know there's a lot of guys who love complaining, and I'm not sure if they just enjoy sapping, and complaining about the negatives in life. But I think if you can change that mindset, man, it can make such a big difference to your happiness.
Did you, because I want to use an example here, did you look at it as, traveling, I've got to travel now? Or did you look at it as, okay, I'm traveling to, let's say Japan to go play for the Red Sparks. Okay, I'm traveling here, it's an opportunity for new experience, new opportunities, new doors to open, new people to meet kind of thing. Is that the kind of mindset you did have with all this traveling?
100%. I try and be super excited about the opportunity to go visit a new culture with my family and experience all these new things. And I felt like we really made the most of it whenever we did go to a new place. Like we were, every day off, we'd be trying to visit somewhere new, and something which we probably don't do as much now that we've settled down, where you don't have that same buzz around your day offs around, we're off to go see something new, because we've sort of seen everything and we're just on repeats now. But that's definitely one cool thing about going to all these new places, is everything's new. You've got so many new opportunities, new experiences to make, and definitely felt like we made the most of that.
Yep. Okay. So that's what I wanted to know, because there is a lot of, even just professional sports players. You see them when they get, when they go to a new club in a different country. They kind of, as you said, they point out the negatives. Oh, for example, they live in the States. Oh, bloody hell, I got to go to New Zealand. It's such a travel. Whereas, which
Yeah.
what I wanted to ask you is, it's obvious now is that you saw it as a chance to grow as a person. To build your character, and it's another bookmark in your career, in your book of life. It's just another chance to grow as a person. So that's really good. It's a really good and not an easy mind frame to have, is because it is so easy to see the negatives. Oh, I've got to travel
Yeah.
now. This is a waste of time. All the moving and, all right, come on, baby, let's go to another country. Blah blah blah. But you actually turned that into a positive, which probably made, if you didn't turn it into a positive, your experience probably would have been night and day different. I mean, it would have been night and day different.
Yeah, 100%. There's so many new people you get to meet, like all your teammates. So you know what it's like in a sport environment.
Yeah.
All your teammates become good mates, and I met so many cool people through my travels who I still keep in touch with today. And like, I just really think that's one of the coolest parts about sport, is being able to connect with all these different people just from being in the same side of them as them. And it's such a unique experience.
Yeah. I want to pass forward now to the recent years, and the other side of your career, bros. With the hip injury, I want to ask, how was it for you mentally? What helped you in the mental terms realize that, okay, this might actually be, worse than I thought. This might actually end my career.
Yeah, well, I knew pretty early that my hips weren't great. So I had surgery midway through my career on both my hips. I was 24, 25, and that was a surgery to try and extend my career. So I was always told I wouldn't be able to play that late. If I got to 30, I'd be doing well. That surgery was a plan to sort of extend that.
Yeah.
But I knew pretty early that my rugby days weren't going to be massive. I probably went longer than I expected. Potentially played a couple of years longer than I should have, but it was such a hard decision for me at the time, because I knew my hip, I was really struggling on my hip, and I wasn't enjoying it, wasn't enjoying the game as much, obviously because I was so limited of what I could do. It was sore after training, it was sore during training, and it really took its toll on my mental state around the game. So what I did, I guess, was I kept getting these contracts, and I had to make the decision whether I take the contract or whether I decide to give up the game. But I kept taking the contracts. Obviously, I felt the money was too good. I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do post footy. So I signed sort of 2 years, probably when I probably could have retired, and I made this a real opportunity for me to plan my plan my life after footy, and make enough money to sort of give me a buffering to not too much financial pressure on me once it did come to an end.
Yep. So you almost kind of planned for the future, so it wasn't as stressful.
Yeah, 100%. You get told as a young kid all the way through your rugby career at planning for the future. Your career can end any game. You're only one injury away from having no job. So you do always think about it, and you're always kind of preparing, but it's actually a really hard thing to prepare for, because you can't exactly go out and try different work opportunities because you're so busy. But I had a few ideas of things I wanted to do, and once the opportunity came, I had a 12-month rehab program. I wasn't exactly sure that it was going to be a career ender. I had my surgery, had 12 months, and gave myself that 12 months to really have a crack at things that I wanted to do post footy. And by the end of that 12 months, my hip was still stuffed, and I was deep enough into a few things that I really thought I would enjoy post footy, and still doing those.
Bloody good then, because a lot of people do get, whether it's sports or other avenues, is once they have a profession in it and they kind of, that profession comes to an end, a lot of people are stumped. You see it so often. A lot of professionals in their section of interest is they end their professionalism or just end their careers, and they're actually stumped and lost, and tend to actually backtrack on all the hard work they've put for themselves. So that's really That's really admirable, bro, and good shit for actually, getting ahead of the cycle before it came to an end. So good stuff, brother. Good job for that.
Yeah, especially in the current climate with COVID and stuff around, a lot of guys are losing their jobs
Yeah.
out of nowhere. So I think there'll be a lot of people going through that sort of situation at the moment. And the more preparation you can do, the better you're going to be during that process. But I definitely felt if you can give yourself some sort of financial buffer, that you take the pressure off you to have to work into something you don't want to do straight away. That's
Yeah.
going to be harder for some people than others. But if you can sort of give yourself, I don't know, 1 or 2 months where the financial things are covered, that will make the process so much more easier for you, whether it's having a savings account or something. It'll just give you an opportunity to do a transition without the same stress that you will if you have that financial burden hanging over you.
Yeah, I think that's a real good piece of advice for anyone, whatever section of interest you're in or whatever profession you have, is just in general, just make sure not so much a backup plan, but just have a full back plan in case it all turns out. And easy as that, even if it's every paycheck putting away a half or quarter away of what you get paid, just slowly building it up. So at least you have, like James said, you that bit of that relief. You're a lot more comfortable if things decide to take a turn. So let's touch base on your current status, bro. First question I'll ask, being a father to sons or Super Rugby, what's more challenging?
Definitely the 3 sons, mate. They're full on, man. The days off can be tough work, but it's so rewarding, though. A little bit like Super Rugby as well. You put in the hard work, and that's sort of what makes it rewarding. Like anything that is too easy, it isn't as enjoyable. You don't get the same rewards at the end. You don't get that same satisfaction once you've completed something. But mate, I love spending time with the kids. Yeah, really love being a dad, and it definitely has its challenges, though.
Yeah. I'm not going to experience that for a couple more years, so we're good there. What a lad podcast, bro. Now, where did this kind of initial thought of it, where did it inspire from? Was it more, let's just try it for a little bit, this seems like something I could be good at? Or was it more you thought about it for a while and you finally got to the point where it was like, no, I want to try it, put all into it, and let's see where it goes?
Yeah, a little bit more that second one, because it was something that I used to do on the bus. Like all teams sort of have like an info committee, and my role was to put these little audio packages together to try and make the boys laugh. So I got pretty good at making audio content and like cutting up and editing. And I started listening to more podcasts, and I really enjoyed them. And I just sort of thought there was a space in the rugby area. Artie was doing one, but it wasn't as regular.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed his podcast, and I thought he was doing an awesome job. So to see someone like that, who was a teammate of mine, who wasn't as comfortable as a speaker publicly as I felt like I probably was, to see him do it with other guys like Via Fafita, who also wasn't a natural public speaker, someone who often felt uncomfortable speaking in public. Seeing these guys get up there and give it a crack was just really inspiring. And I just thought that I was sort of not doing it because I felt like people were going to judge me. What were people going to think about me doing a podcast? Another rugby player trying to do a podcast, and I just sort of got to the point where I was like, oh, stuff it. I'm just going to give it a crack here. And I knew that most podcasts only last 7 episodes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that was the sort of stat that I was going off, and I made a little plan to do my first 7 episodes, see where I got to, and if it was going no good, I'd just stop it, and like no one wouldn't bother me. I'd try something else. But I think I'm at about 137 episodes later, and still going and still really enjoying it, connecting with some of the best lads from around the world who I've played with, or some I haven't. So yeah, really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's really good, and which why I also wanted to bring you on here is, the lads you have on, for example, like you said, Artie Salvia, I wanted to speak about, or just bring it up. There's an episode with TJ Petinata and yours, it's both of the episodes, even though it's the same person speaking, both the episode, your episode with him and Artie's episode with him, is you brought up different sides to him. And why I wanted to bring you on is a lot of people, they just see you guys on the rugby field, and they don't actually get to see much of who you guys are off the field. And it's what you're doing. It's so bloody good, because that you give them exact that. You allow, especially kids who idolize some of the people you've had on, you give them a bit of an insight to who they are. So what you're doing now, you're actually just filling that gap. You have a lot of people who are doing like financial podcasts, mental health podcasts, like myself, and yours is just filling that gap. One, you have all these professional sports players coming on speaking, but they're not what they seem on the field. It's not them doing high tackles, blowing people's knees out. It's them actually just being normal people. Because the stereotype is, if you're a professional athlete, you're a bit up yourself. So what you're doing is just, your podcast is so good, bro. And for the time you've had it on and how far you've grown already, and the kind of attraction you've had to it, is, for a podcast, that's really amazing. And a lot of people who may be wanting to start podcasts, like James said, and I've said in the past, is a lot of podcasts don't last 7 episodes, and that might be a bit of a confronting feeling, but it comes into consistency. After 7 episodes, I know for a fact you kind of learn around your 4th or 3rd episode whether you actually want to keep going or not. But once it starts getting into those double digits, then you actually need to think, okay, is this for me or is this not? So if you're thinking about it, just go for it. Go for it, because, as I always say, take the risk or lose a chance. Take the risk and stepping out of your comfort zone, doing something you might not be comfortable with, which may be, public speaking, being open about yourself, helping others, talking to other people, and you might even lose a chance, making new friends, growing as a person, opening new opportunities for yourself. You never know unless you try. So as you can see from myself and from James, with what he's done and What a Lad podcast, if you don't take that leap out of your comfort zone, the opportunities are, you can't even imagine what opportunities could bring to you from stepping out of your comfort zone. So next question is, with comfort zone, bro, is, where do you want to see the What a Lad podcast in the next few years? What are the next plans for it? What's something you want to do to test the waters?
Mate, honestly, this whole thing's just been learn on the run. Obviously, I just sort of jumped in. I made no plans initially. My first goal was that 7 episodes. And mate, it's just been growing really quickly, especially over these last couple of months. So a few spaces I'm looking to take. And I'm about to go in the process of creating my What a Lad beer. So I'm going to have a What a Lad beer coming out.
Yeah.
I'm looking into the NFT space, starting to grow a bit of a community around the What a Lad podcast. So looking to jump into that space at some point, but I don't want it just to be a quick grab. I want it to be a real community thing, which there's a lot of utilities behind it.
Exactly.
I've just got heaps of plans, and I'm one of those guys who, I'll just see someone will mention something, I'll try it, I'll look into it, and I'll either do it or I'll try it. And if it doesn't work, then sweet. I've got into the merch. That obviously didn't go that well. So something I'm probably going to look to park. But there's a few things like that where I'll learn everything about it. I'll start doing it. And then if it works, I'll keep going. If it doesn't, I'll just put it to the side. So it's definitely my personality. And mate, there's heaps of things on my list which I want to try and do with it. But at the moment, I just really want to keep creating the content that people are enjoying. And like you say, I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of awesome guys come on the podcast and be themselves. And that was the whole reason I set it up. Was I knew these guys well behind the media and behind the cameras, and I knew what they were really like. And it used to drive me mad seeing them speak in front of the media and just completely close up their personality. Because, mate, a lot of these guys are funny guys, or like really entertaining people, or got inspiring stories, but you never hear them because people are so scared to speak out to the media in case it's portrayed. Twisted. Yeah, in case it's twisted. So that was definitely something that I was passionate about. And you spoke about it before, about jumping in and doing your podcast. I think that's really important. If you're passionate about something, it's a lot easier than if you're just trying to do it to make money, because podcast is a hard game to make money from. But if you're passionate about something, it doesn't feel like work, and then it becomes easy and things will start happening for you.
Yeah, brother, fully agree with that last bit you said. If it's, if it does feel like it's starting to become work, you start to lose that pure enjoyment from it. So just whatever you may be doing, just try to stay on track with that enjoyment and why you're doing it. Because as soon as you try to focus on the numbers and how many likes you get and stuff, that's when you start to lose the pleasure for it. So as I said before this, bro, for the last few minutes, what I love to do is 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it may be, bro, hand it over to you. This is your time of the podcast. Just say whatever you want. You can shout out people. You can share a piece of motivational advice or a motivational quote, or just chuck anything out there, brother.
Mate, I like that segment. I might have to start doing this too. But it's very makes it quite tough. But what's really brought to my attention from this yarn was when I was speaking about the gratitude side of things, and I feel like it's a real underrated part of life, I guess.
Yeah.
If you can really think about the things that you're grateful for constantly and really, really feel that gratitude, your happiness is a lot more than if you don't. So one thing I did during the first lockdown was I started writing down 10 things I was grateful for every morning. And I felt like that was a way to start. And now I try and feel it. And I think it's definitely something that's helped me. I feel like I'm I'm naturally pretty grateful. I was never someone who was given a lot of things as a young fella. We were a middle-class family. Our favorite days were going around, the rubbish days up in Auckland when everyone would chuck their toys and stuff they don't want, they're getting picked up from the rubbish. I remember me and my brother just going around. Those were like our happy days. Like it was like Christmas for us. Like we didn't have a lot growing up, but I feel like that made me way more grateful for the things that I have now. And I know just talking to other guys, and I see a lot of guys get caught in the world of social media where you see everyone else with things, or they portray this life on social media, and it's unrealistic. And if you're grateful for what you've got, instead of worrying about or always wanting more, I think it will just change your mindset around how happy you are, and you'll notice it in your life.
Thank you for that, bro. I really love to speak on that. Is don't focus on what others have, focus more on what you have. And like you said, social media, don't focus on what all these celebrities with their rented Lamborghinis and their green screen backdrops, just focus on what you have, focus on your story, your journey, and what you can bring to yourself. So once again, my bro, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule and hopping on Hendo's Hot Topics, man. I really appreciate it very much.
No worries, mate. I love what you're doing, and keep going, keep driving.
Will do, brother. And as usual, guys, make sure you do what makes you happy. Do what you know is right, and do what you need to do for yourself. I love you very much. My line's always open. You know where to get to me. Have an amazing week. Look after yourself. And I'll talk to you guys next week. See you later.
Love is lost, but you found out the truth be told, that's the truth and that's no doubt.